stop. Before you write that comment, there have been many people in the past who have clicked on a video that I've put out trying to discuss a more hot button issue, who've just done nothing but read the title, looked at the thumbnail, done nothing with the actual video itself, and wrote a comment. Please do not make yourself look like an idiot. My goal today is to come up with a solution that both parties can somewhat agree to. I'm not going to perfectly represent either side, but I'm sure that I'm going to at least in part represent your opinion as well as the opinion of the people who do not agree with you. So please give me the time of day to at least watch the video through its entirety before you try to contribute to the discussion down below. All right, let's get going. The latest issue with SBMM, if you're not familiar with SBMM, is skill-based matchmaking. That is the recent change that Bungie has implemented within the game to take players who have a similar skill level and put them in lobbies of similar skill. Has become a very hot button issue. What I'm going to talk about today is not going to make me popular because I'm going to come out for and against both sides, because I came into the skill-based matchmaking discussion against skill-based matchmaking. I came into it saying skill-based matchmaking should not be within Destiny 2, and I had a laundry list of reasons to do so, which I will get into. But as time has gone on and I've researched it and thought about it more, I've come to the conclusion that I think my initial position was wrong, but the position of the pro skill-based matchmakers is also wrong. As with most things in life, there is a middle ground that's probably the best place for us to be, as it's probably a good solution for both parties, but unfortunately it requires more effort on all parties involved. I want to first talk about the against skill-based matchmaking party. This was my initial position. I'm going to use the analogy of a strike. Strikes are pretty easy to do, especially the lower level ones. You get to the end of them and you really don't get much. Typically you're doing strikes to complete bounties, to get XP, whatever it may be, right? But let's say that there was a new system that was implemented to where if you're a really good strikes player, you're taking little damage, you're getting a lot of kills, and you're doing it pretty fast, that as you continue to go on, those strikes continue to get harder and harder and harder until you're at the level where you're a grandmaster. That sounds on paper that could be kind of cool. But there's a problem. You don't get Grandmaster rewards for completing that strike. You get the same level of rewards as if you were completing a normal strike. Skill-based matchmaking has an issue for upper-end players like myself. I think that I'm a pretty qualified person to talk about this, as I'm not only a person who has used off-meta from the very beginning of Destiny. Guys, my #1 most used weapon in the game is the Mida multi-tool, like 20-something thousand kills on it, okay? I know what off-meta is. Despite that, I've pretty frequently been within the top 500. Even for a time being, I was over True Vanguard back when we were nobodies, which I was very proud of. So I know what it's like to be a good player in a connection-based lobby, and it's pretty fun. I also know what it's like to be a good player in a skill-based lobby like Trials of Osiris and such, and it's less fun. As you get higher and higher up in the skill ranking, the amount of players that are also at your level gets smaller and smaller and smaller, exponentially so. The matches get harder, and worst of all, they get laggier because you're not often finding players who are, down the street from you. You're finding players who are on the literal other side of the planet. It's unfun because personally, and I'm sure many players like content creators like myself find themselves in this position, we're not able to take loadouts or weapons that we know aren't the best, just something we're trying to experiment with just to get a bit of feedback on, or, just enjoy Destiny for the variety that it offers. We're being forced to sweat in a situation where really there's not really any reason to. Top of that, we have to wait longer for our matches because, we have to find players who are of that same skill level. It is loose skill-based matchmaking, so there's some times where sacrifice skill-based matchmaking for connection-based matchmaking and so on and so forth. But the big thing for me as a off-meta player is that it kills my creativity. It really sucks. I do a lot of builds. Like, builds are kind of the thing on this channel, and I do a lot of weird builds. And it really sucks that I'm not able to take some of those more unusual builds into my lobbies anymore, because I will get my ass handed to me over and over and over again. Let's talk about the other side of the argument, the side that's for skill-based matchmaking, which, if Twitter is anything to go by and general people's response to the comment section is anything to go by, is much more popular. That might not be representative of the whole, but it's at least something to go off of over this more ambiguous data that we have before us, at least me as a content creator. So let's use Call of Duty as an example, generally held to as one of the most casual experiences for a first-person shooter. If you're over the age of 20, I'm willing to bet that's probably the first game that comes to mind when you think of a casual first-person shooter, followed right behind like Fortnite or whatnot. But both Fortnite, ironically, and Call of Duty recently have announced that all of their games since 2007, obviously this is just applying to Call of Duty, have been skill-based match-made, which is a bit of a shock because, at least within the Call of Duty sphere, from what I can find within my research, is what players believed was killing the franchise was skill-based match-made lobbies. Now, again, systems may not be perfect back in the day, maybe it was more connection-based than it was skill-based back in the day, but regardless, it's at least something to keep in mind. As somebody who grew up with, in the golden age of first-person shooters, that being Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 2, knowing that those games were skill-based match-made, it forced me to take a step back and really re-examine the position that I had. When you are a lower skilled player, an average skill or below, it's much easier for you to find a match because there's more players like you. It's more fun because you're not getting stomped to death. The matches are a lot closer, which is a lot more interesting, and you have a better opportunity to improve. You're able to give yourself more of a chance to actually fight up against players who are like within your weight class, right? Because if you're going to the gym for the first time and you can barely lift 20 pounds, why would you go near the people who are 40 pounds? That analogy broke down, but you get what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense for you to immediately jump to the harder and the heavier. It makes sense for you to more work your way up there. There's a problem with this, however. Destiny 2 PvP has rarely, there was a time, but that was when something was different, which I'll talk about. Rarely has it ever been encouraging to improve yourself as a player outside of its own intrinsic reward. There are plenty of players who enjoy improving, but Destiny's a loot-driven game. It makes sense to go after things that are harder if you get rewards that are better. How often do you see people play the Trials of Osiris? Just because they enjoy it. And again, there are players out there, I happen to know one of them, but it's more uncommon to see that versus the players like, oh, did you see that there's a Trials bow with kill clip? Let's go try to get it. Right? That makes sense. What skill-based matchmaking has done is that it has taken what Destiny is doing wrong for PvP and put it into the limelight. A lot of the issues that we're seeing with the underlying systems with Destiny 2 PvP is being brought forth because skill-based matchmaking is making it so obvious. I would like to propose a few solutions that hopefully make both parties happy. First of all, skill-based matchmaking needs to be a choice, not a requirement. What if we just made skill-based match-made lobbies like the Glory playlist, or have a Glory 6v6 mode actually reward you with Grandmaster style of loot? It takes about the same amount of time. Maybe we can make it even more random and less sparse because of how repeatable it is, but actually give us something to go after. Regardless of what the specifics are, give us a reason to go into a skill-based match-made lobby. Improvement is in and of itself nice, but it is not a reward in a loot-based game. Not for everybody, at least. Lobby balancing still needs to be a focus. There's often times where I get paired with people who are about my skill level, but all the people who are just about above me get put in the other team, which turns into a blowout very quickly. Typically by about 30 points in the game, I'll be able to tell whether or not a mercy rule is about to happen. Now, they do tend to happen far less when I'm in a skill-based match-made lobby, but they still happen. And again, typically it's because I'm trying to experiment, not sweat. Map voting. Some new features, please, desperately need to be added to the game. Why do I want to play a sweaty match on a map that I hate? There should be a ping requirement in order to queue into a match. You need to have good internet. It's a bit utilitarian, but I think that it's just a better solution all around. It's frustrating to come against a lobby of skilled players and have one of them lagging out of their ass because they're in China and I'm over here in the United States, and there's like 1,000 ping between us. It just doesn't make sense for me to be fighting these types of people. The changes to stack matchmaking has been fantastic, and it should be encouraged. Give people more rewards for stacking together so that there's actually incentive to play in a more team-orientated and competitive environment, similar to how the Iron Banner would work. Streamer mode. As a content creator myself, it is a little too often that people are a little too excited to fight me. They want to have the opportunity to put me down, and I don't scoff at a challenge. I'm willing to take it on, but it does make it a little bit unfun if you're a well-known good player and you're just having people solo super you over and over and over and over again. I know, content creators asking for special treatment. Oh my, it's a small feature. Other games have it. Anyway, I hope this ends up helping out. Like I said, my goal was not necessarily to say that one side is right or one side is wrong, but rather to say that both sides have valid points and to come up with a solution that makes both sides happy. Because I don't think players are necessarily against going against other skilled players, it's just that they want to be able to do it on terms that make sense for them, terms that actually reward them for being a good player and don't punish them with longer matchmaking times, laggier lobbies, and the inability to run anything outside of their most sweatiest loadouts. But again, it's also giving the common man more of an opportunity to actually compete with other people of their similar skill level and get to see themselves improve. That's just my thoughts. Feel free to leave yours in the comment section down below. Bless your faces, and deuces.